one thing that is not smart is betting against AI, because we're seeing how quickly it is progressing. And every time somebody says, oh, it can't do this, it can't do that, generally a year or so later, we see it doing exactly that. Good morning, everybody. This is AI with Kyle. I'm going to be running through the latest AI news and updates from the day. Relatively quiet day. I'm delving into, oh gosh, this is a big one. What is AI? There's a lot of confusion about what exactly artificial intelligence, generally caused by the difference between artificial intelligence, machine learning and deep learning, and also between AI and its different flavors. So we have narrow intelligence, general intelligence, and super intelligence. I wanted to cover debates I've seen on Twitter from smart and not so smart people. I wanted to clear it up so that you guys know exactly what to say when somebody says to you, that's not actually AI. ChatGPT is not actually AI, which I hear an awful lot. So we'll be covering that. But first, let's jump in and have a look at adverts. It looks like they are coming to ChatGPT, surprising nobody. Actually, I tell a lie, a lot of people seem to be surprised and annoyed about this. If you've been watching my shows or reading anything that I write, I've been going on about this for ages. Yeah, of course they're going to add adverts. It's the only way they're going to make any money. And they are. We have got a leak in the Android app beta, which has a couple of references to ad features. So they have inside of the code ads, debug info, ad target type, API ads content wrapper, some kind of shop, maybe, or a way to transact directly within the application, which would be interesting because they have integrations with things like Shopify, but this would be cutting past that, or integrating Shopify. API search ads carousel, so being able to show you multiple images. Search ad will be when you search for something like a toaster. It will often go to Google and pull information about some best toasters right now, but this might overlay ChatGPT ads over the top of that. API ad, not sure what this would be. When we use the API to build our own software, they wouldn't dare shove adverts into our software, I assume, unless they have some kind of display network like Google. So Google allow you to show banner ads, which are served up by Google, but they sit on your website. Could be something like that. I imagine, though, this is just API, as in way of connecting various parts of this ecosystem. So I don't think it's adding ads into our ChatGPT applications. That'd be interesting. And then this Bazaar content wrapper and the API Bazaar content wrapper here, some kind of shop or just a code name for functionality, some kind of feature. But it looks like we are getting ads for sure, probably next year, unless they release it during the 12 days of Shipmas coming up. OpenAI last year did 12 days of Christmas, 12 days of Hanukkah, basically, where they released a number of features over 12 days. They could be doing something similar here. This would be a wild one to release, but we will see. OpenAI has imported approximately 630 former Meta employees, representing about 20% of its roughly 3,000 staff, according to LinkedIn. So the reason why you'd want to bring in lots of Meta people is not necessarily because they're engineers, but because Meta is an advertising platform. I imagine they have some Google employees too. Meta, Google, a lot of the big tech companies out there are primarily advert companies. That is how they make their money. There's this table that I'm always bringing up of Google. So Google last year, about 60% of the revenues came from Google search. About 10% came from YouTube ads. So about 60-70% of their money is directly from advertising. Google are an advertising company. That is what they do. They have some other things. They have Google Cloud, so infrastructure, that's about 10%, and other, that's subscriptions, but they are primarily an advertising company. The same goes for Facebook, Instagram, and all big social media platforms. ChatGPT now has an audience. They have eyeballs. And they have a lot of free eyeballs, people who are not paying for a subscription. So what we'll probably see, free accounts showing adverts. That makes sense. If you have a paid account, $20, $200 a month, that will reduce the number of adverts. That would be my speculation. We will find out soon. But this is how they monetize. People keep asking, how are you going to make all your money using subscriptions? There's no way you're going to be able to pay your data center bills and your electricity bills. This is how. It's not about subscriptions, it's about advertising and competing with Google and Meta. Interesting to see that ChatGPT or OpenAI are going to be potentially pushing this first. I've always said they're waiting for one another to pull the trigger, and then all the companies will jump in as soon as ChatGPT go ahead and push this. I imagine Gemini, the route will now be open for Google to start moving their search business into Gemini. However, Gemini doesn't yet have the market penetration that OpenAI has. So what they'll have to do is probably do it in the AI overviews at the top of their Google search as they transition to generative AI. But it is here, it is coming, and we should be seeing adverts, I imagine, early next year inside of ChatGPT, which I know is going to upset a lot of people, but this is how they make money. This has always been in the game plan. They're not going to make their money from $20 subscriptions. Not at all. Good morning, Selena. So that's probably the main piece of kind of news over the weekend. It's been relatively quiet. So 2 weeks ago, we had Gemini 3, we had Grok 4.1, we had ChatGPT 5.1, Codex Max, and then last Monday we had Opus 4.5 from Anthropic. Then we had Thanksgiving last Thursday, quieted down. We still haven't seen it pick back up again. I think we're going to be seeing 12 Days of Christmas, 12 Days of Shipmas coming up, plus a few more releases before the end of the year, but it's relatively quiet. So I want to talk about an argument I've seen on Twitter about what exactly AI is. So there was a post about the ability to detect breast cancer using AI, and it upset a lot of people because they were saying, no, that's not artificial intelligence, that is machine learning, and we're using machine learning algorithms to detect patterns, to detect potential cancer growths. In this case, it is breast cancer. The original post was one of these clickbaity, oh, this AI detects breast cancer 5 years before anyone else knew. The post itself was removed. What was more interesting was not the post, but the response. A lot of people jumped in saying, this is not AI. This doesn't count. This is machine learning. This is not artificial intelligence. To which a lot of AI people came back and said, hang on, machine learning is a part of artificial intelligence. It's one of the mechanisms we use. We use machine learning algorithms, and we've built that up to what we now have, things like generative AI today. Generative AI, things like ChatGPT, are just one form of artificial intelligence, and they use methods from machine learning. But there's been this kind of argument now between people who are obviously people on both sides who are not seeing eye to eye because of definitions. There's 2.5 million views. Any description of specialized medical machine learning algorithms as AI is just PR for OpenAI and other slop generator companies. You're dragging down public trust in useful machine learning while giving ChatGPT a veneer of unearned respectability. What's happening here is people are bifurcating ChatGPT, generative AI, AI slop, from uses of artificial intelligence they think are useful. And I see this a lot when we're covering the news. When I do a video about, hey, we just use AI for protein folding, or we've made a medical breakthrough, or there's a new Alzheimer's drug which has been helped by research using AI, everyone in the comments will jump in and be like, yeah, this is a good use of it. This is what it should be used for. Or they'll say, well, this isn't actually AI. People like to put AI, which they think of as ChatGPT, basically, in its own bucket of bad things. And anything good outside of that bucket, they justify by saying that's not actually artificial intelligence, because artificial intelligence is bad and it's done something good. So this is actually something else. This is machine learning, or this is deep learning, or this is whatever, as something else to help them keep those mental barriers between AI bad, wait, hang on, it's doing something good at the same time. You have to go through a lot of mental gymnastics in order to continuously say that everything that artificial intelligence does is bad. And interestingly, so Jeremy Howard, who's an AI researcher, he put a photo of himself up. This is from 2016, 9 years ago. Jeremy Howard, the founder and CEO of Analytic, believes artificial intelligence can transform healthcare. And it's got a picture of him in front of a radiology scan. So he says, this is utter nonsense. I created the first company to focus on deep learning in radiology, the exact area discussed below. It is and always has been part of AI. Now that AI is popular, everyone thinks they're an expert and feels they must have strong opinions. So this is the key thing. It is and always has been part of AI. I want to pull up this chart, which is incredibly useful and a lot of people forget. So AI is a field of study. It's pretty broad. It's an academic field of study. AI is mimicking the intelligence or behavior patterns of humans or any other living entity. And that's a fairly broad Catholic description, especially because we haven't got good definitions of what intelligence is. We have different definitions, but nobody's really nailed that down. And it's something we can argue about until the cows come home. Within artificial intelligence, we have other fields like machine learning, which is a technique. So a technique by which a computer can learn from data without using a complex set of rules. This approach is based on training a model from data sets. Early forms of AI in the 50s and 60s tried to give AIs all of the rules that they needed. So we have things like Psych, for example, CYC, which was trying to make explicit all of the implicit rules about life. So for example, I have a container right here, which I've got the lid off. We would need to write a rule saying, when you have a container of water sitting on your desk while you're given a live stream, make sure you put a lid on it so you don't spill it. You'd have to explicitly put that in. You'd have to write it in as a rule, whereas most humans just know that's a dumb thing to do. This is empty, by the way. I'll have a coffee though. Machine learning is a technique within artificial intelligence. In machine learning, we have a subset called deep learning. So deep learning is a technique to perform machine learning inspired by our brain's own network of neurons. AI has been around as an idea, gosh, for millennia, but since the birth of computing, basically. So Turing came up with the idea for computer, and actually Lovelace probably before, but let's say Turing for now. Alan Turing wrote down, hey, we need this kind of calculation machine. And then as soon as it was theoretically posited, like almost immediately afterwards, he was like, these things get really smart. If we allowed them to do enough calculations, I wonder if they could mimic human intelligence at some point. The idea has been around for a very long time. The term itself was coined in, I think, 54 or 56 at the Dartmouth conference back in the 50s. Since then, there have been various fields, there have been dead ends, there have been technologies that are still with us today, and it's been developing for decades. It is not new. ChatGPT did not just come like de novo from nowhere and take over the world. There's a reason it suddenly became a big deal. People ask why now? We have enough data. The internet can be seen as putting together a massive training data set for artificial intelligence. Over the last few decades, we have been getting all of our information in one place, very useful for AI. To the processing ability. So we had neural networks, we had ideas for this technology a long time ago, perceptrons, things like that, but we didn't have the processing power to make real the theoretical ideas. We do now. We have technologies like GPUs that NVIDIA make. We have TPUs from Google, which can process the gigantic amount of calculations required so that we have enough data and power at the same time. And then we had breakthroughs in architecture, things like transformers. This chart is very useful, and I pull it out every time we get into this debate because people say, that's not artificial intelligence. We've had artificial intelligence for decades. Every time you have purchased something on Amazon over the last couple of decades, that's been using AI. It's been using machine learning to serve up what it is you should be buying. Every time you choose something on Netflix, that is using artificial intelligence. When you play a video game, the artificial intelligence of the whoever you're fighting, that is also AI. It's just different forms. Generative AI is a subset we are using today. People are confusing a part for the whole, which is incorrect. So that's what's happening here, is this guy is saying, hey, this use of finding cancer growths is a good use. I don't want that to be AI because AI is bad. It's slop generation. It is ChatGPT. It's gross. It's disgusting. So I'm going to say that this is machine learning. But that misses the point that machine learning is artificial intelligence. There's a lot of mislabeling, and I'm glad Jeremy Howard stepped in. I ran a radiology imaging company based on AI. We did good work. Jeremy Howard knows what he's talking about. I'm going to look at different types of AI because there are further complications. The tweet making the case that only ChatGPT can use the term AI, that would only make it worse. Yeah. So unfortunately, for a lot of people, ChatGPT has become synonymous with AI. That's incorrect. It is a form of AI. It's a form of generative AI specifically. It's built on deep learning, machine learning, etc. It's become synonymous in the same way that Google is with search. We don't say use a search engine to find that information. We say Google it. So ChatGPT very quickly took that position and it became synonymous. That's not correct. There are many other AIs out there. There are many other forms of AI. There are other methods that we use. But in terms of the public perception, ChatGPT equals artificial intelligence. That's unfortunately a shorthand that we are stuck with now. Hopefully over time, as people learn more, they'll realize GPT is a form of AI. It's a type of AI, but there are many others out there. This is not the only thing. So they're not perfectly overlapping Venn diagrams. However, we still basically use Google as a shorthand for search. So I think we will continue to use ChatGPT as a shorthand for artificial intelligence. When I make content and I do keyword research to find out what content I should do, people don't ask questions like, how do I use AI? Or how do I use AI for accounting? They don't ask that. The search volume for that kind of query is very low. What they ask is, how do I use ChatGPT? How do I use ChatGPT to make a wedding invite? How do I use ChatGPT to do accounting? How do I use ChatGPT to come up with a birthday party theme for my child? AI is replaced by ChatGPT in the popular perception. Yep, ChatGPT equals AI. For most people, that is the case. Anyone watching this stream now or watching this on YouTube later, you know better. But that's because you're paying attention to this kind of stuff. 99% of people out there don't know the difference. And we can't really expect them to. I want to talk about a further complication. You'll be talking about AI and people will say, okay, talking about ChatGPT, for example, and they'll say, no, ChatGPT is not actually AI. And you say, well, what do you mean? They'll say, it's not really AI, it's an advanced autocorrect, which is true. It is. It's a token tumbler, but it is still artificial intelligence. When you hit this argument with people saying that's not actually AI, what they mean here is it's not AGI. It's not artificial general intelligence. So there are three definitions, two categorizations. So we use the term strong AI and weak AI. And we also use the terms artificial narrow intelligence, artificial general intelligence, and artificial super intelligence. Broadly, artificial narrow intelligence is weak AI, and artificial general intelligence and artificial super intelligence is strong AI. So when you bump into somebody and they're like, oh, ChatGPT is not actually AI, they mean it's not strong AI, not artificial general intelligence. That is valid, but they're using the terminology wrong because AI encompasses all of these things. Again, AI is the bucket term, the name of the field of study. It's the much larger goal we're aiming at. There are facets within that. You will bump into people who say ChatGPT is not AI. They mean it's not strong AI. Briefly, there's artificial narrow intelligence, executing a specific task within a focused area without the ability to self-expand functionality. So all of our AIs right now are artificial narrow intelligences. They're very good at certain tasks, but they cannot perform all tasks that a human could at human capability. They're getting there, but they cannot do it right now. So ChatGPT is an ANI. It has quite a broad set of tasks, but it does that mainly through tool usage. An agent will use the tool to go and do stuff. So if you say, hey, I want you to gather some information, do some research, go and search the internet, go and fetch these things, it has the ability to use modules, to use tools, and tools outside of the large language model to pull information in. So it's still an artificial narrow intelligence, but by giving it more and more tools that it can use to interact with the world, we are expanding its ability to act pretty much in any way that we need it to. However, it still can't drive a car. It still can't play chess. So it is still very much constrained to certain types of tasks. One argument you hear a lot is ChatGPT is great, but it can't do my laundry or it can't do my housework, which is true because it does not yet have a robotic physical presence. One thing that is not smart is betting against AI because we're seeing how quickly it is progressing. And every time somebody says, oh, it can't do this, it can't do that, generally a year or so later, we see it doing exactly that. So ANI tend to be very narrow. So self-driving cars are still an artificial narrow intelligence because they can't do mathematics problems, but they're very good at driving a car. They can't put together a social media post, but they can navigate a roundabout. AGI is what we are, as a species, working towards. Some people are scared, some are excited. I think the sensible thing is trepidation. AGI is approaching human level capacity, performing broad tasks, reasoning, and improving its capabilities. So being able to basically do anything that we do as a human. Doesn't necessarily have to do it better than us, in the same way that most humans can't do everything just as well as any other human. You might be really good at chemistry. Doesn't mean that you are good at writing a social media post. It doesn't mean you are good at writing a novel. There are different skills, and AGI will be able to do them all. If we reach that level, there are real threats to jobs. This is also where whoever reaches this first has an immense competitive advantage globally. A lot of big companies and billionaires are trying to sprint to AGI. Sod everyone else. As long as we get AGI first, we're in a good position. So this is the end game for a lot of them, because having a computer which is basically the same capacity as a human being and being able to replicate that, being able to deploy 1 million of these means you suddenly have 1 million workers working for you for basically free, which means you can theoretically own and control the economy. So getting to AGI is very important. There's also the strategic element. Will China get there or will America get there? And depending on who gets there first, we're going to have a different world. With China, it will be government controlled. With America, it will be in the hands of someone like Elon Musk or Sam Altman, or maybe Google, potentially. So it would be in a corporation rather than government controlled. This is strong artificial intelligence. The next level is artificial superintelligence. This is pushing into the realms of sci-fi, but you can understand the logic. It outperforms human intelligence in practically every field. A good definition I've seen is artificial intelligence is the combined intelligence of every human on Earth, but superior to that. At that point, we can't really grasp that type of intelligence. It's like a chicken looking up to a human and not understanding its intentions. At that point, is this human my friend? Are they going to look after me? Am I a pet chicken? Or the other type of chicken? We don't necessarily know what that's going to fold out like. The big concern, and you see this from Geoffrey Hinton in particular, is once we get to AGI, we'll probably get to ASI very quickly, because the AGI can work out the next steps for us. We have potentially millions of human minds all working on the problem of working out the ASI. So from artificial narrow intelligence to AGI, we've been doing this for decades. From AGI to ASI might happen very quickly. It could be weeks, it could be months, and then we have an artificial superintelligence. So this is the big fear about AGI, is that, okay, what happens next? I saw it put well in a book I'm reading. What if we're right? What if people who are rushing ahead with this technology, excited about creating this human equivalent intelligence, or creating this greater than human level intelligence, what if we are correct? And it is possible in the next couple of years. I don't think enough people have asked that. They're too busy trying to see if they can do it rather than thinking about whether they should do it. So that's where we are right now. But all of this is to say, when somebody comes to you and they're like, ChatGPT isn't AI, and they think they're being really smart because they've learned about machine learning and how the model works a little bit, what they mean is it's not AGI. They mean it's an ANI, artificial narrow intelligence. So they are incorrect, but intelligently incorrect. People in my circle think it's using all the water and it's cheating to use it. Okay, the water thing is fascinating. The water thing is a red herring. It does use power though. The water thing it's a bizarre, I don't know where it came from, but it doesn't use a huge amount of water. It does use power. And this is going to be the big issue moving forward. And this is also why AI companies are investing into nuclear power stations and revitalizing old decommissioned power stations and building their own power stations. It's why Google had talked about launching a satellite into space covered in solar panels with a training cluster in the middle. This is about power. So the race right now is how many GPUs can you get? How big a data center can you get? The race will become how much power you have to actually work those GPUs. That's what China's doing. So China are investing heavily into renewables in particular in order to get ahead. Their energy production is phenomenal. Electricity generation. This is a good picture because they've realized that this is going to be one based on electricity and how much power you can provide. Very different charts. The US chart is flat at around 4,000 terawatt hours. The Chinese chart is straight up at 9,000 terawatt hours and rising. And this is 2022. I'm sure they're much higher by now. And this is also a lot of renewables. So deciding, okay, we're doing solar power and just coating a desert in solar panels and wind turbines. So they are not messing around when it comes to energy. So energy is a big issue. Water is not. Data centers use around 3% of the world's electricity. That is going up because of AI. Half of that usage is AI. So it used to be 1.5%. It's now gone up to about 3%, roughly. It depends how you measure it, blah, 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 but roughly 3%. So that's a huge jump from 1.5% to 3% of the world's electricity in the last couple of years. It is still 3%, so arguably that's not that high compared to industrial, commercial, residential usages. 97% of the electricity is used elsewhere. It's relatively small, but growing. Simon Willison did a test robust, but it is enough because of the orders of magnitude here. Out of curiosity, I decided to try and run the numbers on how much Netflix you can watch and the energy output of a ChatGPT prompt. It's between 5 and 10 seconds. So watching Netflix for 10 seconds is equivalent to one ChatGPT prompt. Let's say you watch an hour-long show, that's 60 seconds. times 60 minutes. What's that? 360. Yes. Wait, my math failed me. Oh no, it's 10 seconds. So 10 seconds is one prompt. So I can't do maths while I'm on stream. There we go. 60 times 60 is 360. So 360 divided by 10. So it's 360. Yeah, of course it is. 360 prompts for 1 hour, which I don't know about you, but that's a lot of prompting. In June 2025, Samot claimed ChatGPT, the average query is about 0.34 watt hours. In March 2020, George Kamir of the International Energy Agency estimated that streaming Netflix video in 2019 typically consumed between 0.12 and 0.24 kilowatt hours of electricity per hour. Yep, one prompt in ChatGPT is roughly 5 seconds of Netflix, roughly. Or, if you're being conservative, it's 10 seconds. Either way, it's not very high compared to everyone else's energy usages. So whenever somebody says, oh, ChatGPT uses a lot of electricity, you have to say, yeah, it does. So does using Netflix. So does watching TikTok on your telephone. So does lighting your house. So does absolutely everything we do. It uses much, much more energy. So people need to take the context of the energy use in context if they're going to make a good faith argument. What you tend to see is people make arguments about electricity and they make arguments about water against artificial intelligence. But then as soon as you show them data on how much water meat production uses, for example, or how much electricity swiping through TikTok or watching Netflix for hours, they shut up quickly. Or they'll say, oh, that's different because ChatGPT is unethical. They'll find another angle of attack. But they need to put the energy and water usage in the context of their everyday usage, and it is absolutely dwarfed. So people will find arguments about AI. Electricity is a problem, which is why companies are trying to make more of it. Water is less of a problem. The interesting thing about electricity is all these companies pushing it forward may actually fix climate. This is a big claim, but all of these companies, the top companies on earth right now, Nvidia, OpenAI, I guess Grok and Twitter, Google, Apple, all of these absolutely gigantic companies, they need to drive down the price of energy because energy is going to be what allows them to succeed moving forward. What this means in terms of training and inference for large language models and AI in general, they want to make their algorithms as efficient as possible. If their algorithm is too lossy, it costs more to run. Every time I go to Claude and I run Opus 4.5, that is costing Anthropic a certain amount of money. They want to reduce that as much as possible. So they make their systems as efficient as possible because their margin is the energy cost. They need to drive that down as much as possible. At the same time, they're investing into sustainables and nuclear power in order to increase the amount of energy that is available. For decades, we've been like telling corporations, oh, you need to sort your act out and you need to stop polluting and you need to stop using so much energy. In a weird way, what we've now done is we've aligned clean energy production with their profit incentive. If they can work out how to get cheap energy abundantly without much waste, then they can win and their profit goes up and shareholders are happy. So we don't need to rely on the goodness of their hearts. We don't need to rely on them trying to save the earth or being bleeding heart liberals. We do not need that anymore because we just need them to be more efficient to make more money. We've aligned the profit incentive with the environmental incentive. Right now, it doesn't look like that because it's messy and everybody's just scaling as quickly as possible. But as soon as they start to hit that wall with energy, and the smart ones have already seen this, which is why they're investing into nuclear power, and China is investing massively into sustainables, then it's a force function on being more environmentally friendly. Not for good reasons, but for profit-based reasons. But in a weird way, they might actually pull us out of the death spiral of climate change. I know that sounds bizarre, especially as the energy centers are using a lot of energy, creating a lot of waste as well. But I think moving forward over the next 5-10 years, we're going to see that start to shift where they have to be more green and they have to generate more energy. So never rely on the goodness of people's hearts, but do rely on a profit. As long as that's aligned, we might be okay. Claude says it's not sustainable. We're going to hit a wall soon. The grid we have won't support the AI needs and development. Yeah, this is why China might win. Several years ago, Xi Jinping said AI is a strategic national concern. Trump finally said, we need to pay attention to this, and he released the AI action plan. But Xi Jinping did this years and years ago. And part of this was also, hey, we need to get our energy We need to get our energy in line. We need to not be reliant on other people for electricity. And we need the foundations and the infrastructure to grow our technology sector and artificial intelligence. For the last, 20 years or so, they have just been investing into their infrastructure. So when we say the grid we have won't support AI needs and development, that's the American grid. That's the European grid. This is not an issue in China. They are ready. Thank you, Paolo. I am the AI guy. I was getting a haircut a couple of months ago, and the guy came up behind me. He's like, "Oh, I know you. You're from TikTok. You're the AI guy." Then he left the hairdresser. My hairdresser was like, "What the hell?" And everyone started asking me about what that was. Bizarre. So yeah, the AI guy. Having a discussion. Yeah, it's making people stupid. X says, I believe it does if you use incorrectly. The same way using your phone too much incorrectly can do that. Yep. And Ayub saying, hi, good morning, Ayub. There's several studies proving that over-reliance does it. I don't believe in that narrative, says Claude. So personally, I think that much like any tool, we can use this in different ways. So you can use AI. If you are self-driven, self-directed, AI is fabulous. When I don't know something, I can go to Claude and ask about it. Can you teach me? You can put ChatGPT into study mode and it will help you develop your understanding. Use Notebook LM to draw up presentations, podcasts, study notes, and quizzes. If used correctly, AI is valuable as a learning tool. There's a book by Salman Khan called Brave New Words, which is all about the promise of basically being able to give every child on earth a one-to-one tutor using artificial intelligence, which has not been possible because it's too expensive. Only the rich kids could have that up until now. The promise is there. This requires using AI in that way. For people like yourself, Claude, if you are self-directed and in control of yourself and you're interested in the world, curious, then AI is fantastic. Most people are not. Most people need to be dragged through school, to university and trainings because they don't particularly want to learn. They did their learning in school. Why are you making me learn anymore? I know people who haven't read a book since university. I don't hang out with them, but some people just don't read. A lot of people prefer to watch Netflix or scroll on social media. And AI, unfortunately, gives them another output to be lazy. Yeah, if you're self-directed, you can use AI to do absolutely wonderful things, to tutor yourself and to expand your horizons and build things you've never built before. I've been coding things I would never be able to do a year ago. You can use AI to do thinking for you. You have an essay to write, get ChatGPT to put together the draft. And that quickly changes to, okay, it can flesh out some paragraphs for me. And then suddenly you're writing an essay using artificial intelligence. Whenever I work in cafes a lot, and I'm often near universities, and I'll see students and they'll have a PDF on one side of their laptop, which is their reading or whatever, and then the other side of their laptop will be ChatGPT. Like, everybody is using it. There was a photo recently of some guy in, I think it was Harvard, in the library, and he took a photo of all the laptop screens. Like, you could see, I don't know, 50 kids, and they were all on ChatGPT. So they could be using it to reinforce their learning. They could be using it to make life easy. And if I was 18 and at university, I would be using it to cheat, to not think and do the work for me. There is also the question, if you are a student and have access to these tools, why learn this stuff when the AI can do it all? Because I know I'm going to get into the workforce and just use AI. So what is the point about me going through this process? I think there is a point. The process of having to manually put together essays, manually put together arguments, projects, etc. It's the process that makes you good at critical thinking, synthesizing and analyzing information. While you're in it, you might just be thinking, what's the point? I can use AI all my life. Whether or not AI makes you lazy or stops you from learning depends on what kind of person you are already. And it is a magnifying function. If you are somebody who is self-directed, fantastic. You're going to do so well with artificial intelligence. If you are somebody who's lazy and always looking for the shortcut, it is the ultimate shortcut. It depends so much. Then it becomes a question of society. How many are self-directed? How many just want an easy life? I fear it leans more towards the latter. AI will help a lot of them not think, not do any work, which is a massive problem. Something we need to deal with. Funny, we just know you as the nice haircut guy. Not at all. My hair. At least I have some, but it is a mess. But it's still here, more or less. It's starting to go back. Oh no, look at that. With seeing yourself on camera all the time, like, it's like, oh God. Because I've always got these bags under my eyes. And when I look back on videos a year or two, it goes, wow, he looks young. Don't look at old photos. I remember when you and I had a conversation on TikTok about creating a mastermind group. Did you ever? No, I haven't put together anything like that. Knowledge is a passion. For you, Claude, if knowledge is a passion, then AI is fantastic. You can learn so much and use it to accelerate yourself. For people who don't think knowledge is a passion, AI is a way to become lazy, unfortunately. What devices and tools do you use to stream on YouTube? Great question. TikTok released TikTok Studio, Live Studio for Mac. So previously it was PC only, and there were workarounds. You could use Parallels, or I've forgotten the name of the other one, or Bootcamp or whatever it is, to get it working on a Mac, but it was choppy, and that's no good if you're trying to live stream. So they finally released it on Mac. So I'm running that for the TikTok stream. That is TikTok Live Studio. Looks like OBS. I'm using them to go to Twitter and YouTube, and recording it locally on my computer. I've got a powerful Mac Mini. I think it's, let me have a look what it is. 24, it's an M4 Pro processor and 24 gigabytes of memory. So thankfully it's beefy enough to be able to deal with the 4K streams and recording at the same time. And I've got good internet. If I didn't have good internet, this would be impossible. So that's how I'm doing it. I've got two going through Ecamm. Technically I can add LinkedIn and Instagram, but they do not support 4K 60. And I'm using 4K 60 frames per second on YouTube and Twitter. What I can do, and I need to set up restream.io. There's so many of them. They're restreaming services. And that will send it to Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, wherever. I think I can go to Twitch, although I don't think this is going to be very popular on Twitch. I was thinking about playing Arc Raiders. I'm talking about artificial intelligence, which could be fun. Oh, and in terms of my camera, I have a Sony EV7 II, EV7 something or another, which is the DSLR here. And that's my main camera. And then the microphone is a Shure MV7B, I think, which is a good microphone. All of this setup is pretty complicated. I use ChatGPT to help me work out, because I got some quotes from someone for the wiring diagrams and helping me choose the equipment. And it's about £3,000. And that's like, I can probably work that out. So far, so good. I'm an indie filmmaker. I use AI to do the parts I can't, like the social media posts. As a creative, Keith, I think this is the way to do it. A lot of people in the creative industry, AI is evil. What we could do is use AI on the bits we don't want to do. The admin, reporting, social media posts, stuff any business or project needs to get done, which is not the actual work. Same with most jobs and businesses. Lots of bits and pieces don't add much value, but have to get done. For me, it's like bookkeeping, taxes, administrative stuff, which gets in the way of the real work, but it has to be done, because that is the business. AI is good at taking the load off tasks, so you can spend more time doing creative work. If you're a filmmaker, you get to spend more time writing, filming, and editing instead of faffing around stuff. So this is what I think about AI generally, is we should be using it to offload the things we don't want to do, the parts of our job that we hate, basically, offload them to AI so that you have more time to do the truly human parts, the parts that require creativity, the parts that require meeting people, public speaking, networking, writing, etc. You pour your human energy into that and use AI to get rid of the drudgery. So I think that's the best way to harness and utilize AI. Unfortunately, a lot of people won't touch AI for any aspect of their life, which I think is short-sighted. StreamYard, thank you. Restream, Riverside does it as well, I think, restreaming. Hey, I think that is, I was going to talk about Epic Games a bit, but I don't think I will. Basically saying that AI is in everything and labeling things as non-AI doesn't make any sense, which I agree with. Before I go, the Thinking Game documentary about DeepMind is available on YouTube. A few years ago, there was a movie called AlphaGo, which was about Google DeepMind building something called AlphaGo, and then AlphaZero and some other models, which beat Lee Sedol in the game of Go. So we've had chess playing computers for decades. I guess the 80s was when Kasparov was beaten by Deep Blue. And the next problem became computers will never be able to beat a human being. Go is too complex. You cannot brute force all the moves. There's like 1 trillion move combinations because of the size of the board and the ability to place your counter anywhere on the board. So that became the new impossible task. Initially, it was like, oh, computers will never beat anyone in chess. Like they'll never beat a human. And then Deep Blue beat a grandmaster, Garry Kasparov. And now computers can handily beat any human on Earth. Not very powerful versions. So Go became the new challenge, and AlphaGo is a documentary all about building this machine, AlphaGo, this tool, and taking it up against the world champion of Go. Spoiler alert, it was a few years ago, beating him. 2016, I think. It's bittersweet because there's a triumph of the team, which is exciting to watch. But then very quickly, the team, which includes Demis Hassabis and others, you can see that melancholy on their face. Oh God, we just took this from humans. It's fascinating because of that balance of triumph and, oh God, what have we done? They have a new film, same documentary filmmakers, but it's more broadly about DeepMind, and it follows Demis Hassabis and talks about their mission. It's available totally free. In celebration of the 5th anniversary of AlphaFold, we're bringing the thinking game to the Google DeepMind YouTube channel for free starting November 25th. Filmed over 5 years by the award-winning team behind AlphaGo, the new film takes viewers into the heart of our AI lab, Google DeepMind, as the team strives to unravel the mysteries of artificial intelligence, as we were talking about earlier. The feature-length documentary follows Google DeepMind founder Demis Hassabis and his team during pivotal moments, including the moment the AlphaFold team found out they'd solved a 50-year-old grand challenge in biology. This is another example of something that is then called not AI because it managed to make a massive breakthrough, a breakthrough that went on to be awarded a Nobel Prize. So Demis Hassabis got the Nobel for this. So this is available on YouTube and it's totally free. So I highly recommend it. Okay, I'm going to finish up the live stream. As always, make sure you are subscribed to the newsletter, which I forgot to write yesterday. Today's is not out. I just totally blanked out. The newsletter has all of the updates that we covered in the live, just tidied up, and with all the links, you can follow back and read the actual reports, you can read the articles, etc. And that's totally free. So you can get that on aiwithkyle.com. Also on that site, a whole bunch of different tools that you can use, like an AI business quiz. What AI business should you start? Runs you through different businesses, business ideas, asks about your background, your skills, etc. And then comes out with an analysis of what the best thing to start is. And there's about 100 different mini courses. I say mini courses, they're all 10 to 15,000 words. There's a huge amount of free stuff on the website. So go and check it out, please. That would be awesome. And YouTube, big news. I've been trying to hit 10,000 subscribers for the last few months. We got there yesterday. So 10,036 subscribers. Thank you so much to all who are subscribed. YouTube gave me some fireworks, which is very cute. So 10,000, thank you so much. Unfortunately, I don't get any kind of YouTube button. You only get the silver button at 100,000. Got some more work to do, but I will celebrate this. I hit 10,000 followers on Instagram over the weekend as well. Thank you so much. If you're not subscribed on YouTube, please do. There's some good stuff on there. Thank you, everybody. Claude, I need to celebrate it. But make sure you're subscribed. We need to get to 100,000, one step at a time. Thank you, and I will see you for more AI news and updates. Cheers.